Bonjour. Here we are in chapter 1, or as the book calls it, chapitre 1. We've already looked at the new vocabulary, activities, and you are familiar now then with the ER verbs, or as the book calls it, les verbes du premier groupe en ER. So these are the verbs whose infinitive has an ER in it. When you see a verb like marcher, écouter, jouer, cuisiner, those were some verbs that you saw in the vocabulary part of your book, that ER tells you, it's an ER verb. Here are some examples. Pour parler de nos activités, to talk about our activities. You see some ER verbs conjugated now. In the first sequence of the film Liaison, Claire is talking about her mother to her friend. So she's saying, elle mange, elle joue aux cartes. Elle mange, elle joue aux cartes. Elle existe, c'est tout. So she's talking about her mother's routine. All she does is she eats, she plays cards. She eats, she plays cards. She exists. That's all. Now, in the English, you recognize that I was conjugating the verbs eat, right? To eat, I was saying she eats. To play, she plays. She exists. The infinitive to exist is to exist. So now, you're seeing the French version of the third person singular. Elle, she, elle mange, elle joue. Elle mange, elle joue, elle existe. C'est tout. C'est trop triste. It's too sad to watch my mom like this. So, as the book points out, the infinitive for mange, or elle joue, is manger, jouer. And existe. Can you guess what the infinitive for existe is? Here is one verb conjugated. It's the verb that I have set up as one of the games in your activities this week, where you're just going to practice. So here's our verb, jouer, with an ER. How do I conjugate it? Well, when you conjugate an ER, you actually kind of take out the ER and you put in endings. The ending for je is e, tu, es, il, elle, or on, translates to like one, nous, ons, vous, ez, but the ez is pronounced in exactly the same way as the er. It's et, jouer, vous jouez. And then the ent, the il and elle, plural, ent, is not pronounced at all. In fact, it sounds the same. Il joue, sound the same. So let's just hear how a conjugated verb sounds. Je joue, tu joues, il joue, elle joue, on joue, nous jouons, vous jouez, il joue, elle joue. Now, let me just give you a brief explanation of this on, which I'm going to put in bold. On is literally like one. One plays. On is used very often to just talk in general terms. Like, for example, imagine I'm showing you around a gymnasium and I'm telling you, giving you the tour, and you're going to be a member, and I point out the recreation room. I would say in French, ici, on joue. On joue ici. That one plays here. I could perhaps in English say, you play here. I'm just talking, what does one generally do in this room? Ici, on joue. Ici, on pratique le sport. Nager is to swim. I'll point to the swimming pool. Ici, on nage. And I'm just talking about what one does in general in this pool, and what you, as you become a member, will be doing too one day. Voilà. Let's go over this jouer again. Je joue. Tu joues. Il joue. Nous jouons. vous jouez, il joue. Students usually ask me when I'm presenting this in class, how can I tell the difference between il joue and il joue? They sound the same. Context, context, context. You'll grow as you learn a different language. You'll grow and you'll learn to listen. Sometimes you can tell the difference though. Let's work with a verb like aimer. Oops. Aimer. To like or to love. Also, that's a lot goes on context with aimer. Whether you say j'aime or j'aime, do you mean I like or I love? Now, you don't say je aime. Whenever you have a verb or a noun beginning with a vowel, you use that apostrophe so that it just slides. J'aime. Tu aimes. Yes. And students say, well, you say that, but what about tu aimes? Okay, tu aimes is like that. Tu aimes stays like that. Il aime, so that's, again, that I at the end, S at the end, I at the end. J'aime, tu aimes, il aime, elle aime, on aime. Nous aimons, vous aimez, ils aiment, elles aiment. Now, yes, that is that linking, that liaison between nous, where the S is not usually pronounced, it becomes nous aimons, vous aimez, ils aiment, elles aiment. So if you hear someone say, il aime le chocolat, he likes chocolate. Elle aime le chocolat, she likes chocolate. Ils aiment le chocolat. Ah, ils aiment. That Z sound tells me it's more than one person who likes chocolate. Elles aiment le chocolat. Now I'm imagining 2 girls like chocolate, or 3 or 4. It's plural. Elles aiment. These are the patterns for ER verbs. Sometimes it simply helps to write them out. In the second part of the book, you will have activities, and the book gives you the conjugation for travailler. Notice that whatever the verb is, travailler, to work, jouer, to play, manger, to eat, all of these verbs you've seen in the first part of this part of chapter 1, they're all conjugated the same. The ER group follows the exact same pattern. Je travaille, tu travailles, il travaille, nous travaillons, vous travaillez, il travaille. For the rest of the chapter, you are going to be learning, or rest of the chapter, for the rest of this week, what you will be doing is, on the one hand, learning the verbs themselves, and on the other hand, learning to conjugate them. You have another set of verbs here, and what I'm doing on the iLearn is I'm going to assign activities from the textbook. Textbook activities are the activities that are aligned closely to my lessons. For example, you see this, there is an activity here, activity F. I'm not going to assign that. We're just focusing on verbs this week. So this activity, G, will be one of the first assignments where you practice listening to people giving sentences, and based on what you hear, whether they're using the subject pronoun il, or il plural, or elle plural, you're going to decide what the verb is. You'll be listening for that Z sound. Il écoute, ils écoutent. Or for 6, elle écoute, elles écoutent. You'll be listening for the ils écoutent, elles écoutent. You're going to be focusing simply on learning the conjugations. In the textbook activities, such as this one, as well as the ESAM activities. The ESAM activities are actually activities you don't see as you walk through your ebook. They are like workbook activities. And I've decided from now on, each week to assign activities linked to my grammar and vocabulary lessons. So those textbook activities for me are like attending class. And you listen to my integrities and you work on the textbook activities at the same time. And then, at the end of the week, I will give certain ESAM activities, which will come up when you look at your assignments for the week of the 27th. You will see the ESAM towards the end of the week. The ESAM activities, which are more like the workbook activities, will help you review the classes, online classes you've taken with me using the Tegrity on the one hand and using your textbook on the other hand. Remember, there are many ways to access the assigned activities, both through the ebook itself or when you sign on and you look at the assignment calendar, you'll see assignments for each week. You can see them by chapter or by date, or you can actually see them as you click through the ebook. So right now, if I click on the 27th, the only assignment you have is that oral diagnostic. But I will be posting assignments first linked to the vocabulary lesson, then linked to the grammar lesson, and then in the third group of assignments, there will be the ESAM, which is basically the homework review. Voilà. I hope that this will be a less confusing system for you. And don't hesitate to email me. Alors, bonne journée.